Michael, I asked Aaron Chalmers earlier because I'm putting together a fantasy Avengers team. So I asked Aaron what his superhero power was, and he said it was his hands. What's your superhero power?
I have to say my movement. I have to say my movement. Like, if we take anything that I've done in my past fights, take all the techniques and stuff away from it, the thing that gets me in and out of trouble is my movement. The thing that gets my opponents laid out is my movement. I keep pulling and pushing them, manipulating the fight, all from my movement. So I have to go with that.
So even though you're called Venom, would you say you're more akin to the Flash?
Definitely not, because he's DC. I'm a Marvel fan. Nah, the Venom just comes from the fact that a lot of times my shots are not the most powerful, and as I say, my movement gets me in the right position, so when I actually land those shots, the Venom takes effect and people are still stunned in the same way as if I had crazy power. And that's the Venom.
Okay.
Michael, is it true that you'd said that if David Rickels was injured this week, that you'd happily step in against Roy Nelson and you'd school him?
You know what, 100%. Because straight away, I'm gonna have to go and eat now. I could just start packing. I don't have to cut no more weight. That's the main reason. And I don't think he's gonna put a hand on me anyway. People my weight can't put hands on me, so yeah, 100%.
It's been a year and a half since you last had an MMA fight. Have you missed this?
Oh yeah, 100%. This our lifter fight, man. Being out for so long is ridiculously stressful. It's hard to continue training because you don't have a goal, and then when you do and things go wrong, it's hard to continue training again, and that's the hardest thing. I'm lucky I got a good team around me, coaches that, one, motivate me, two, just scare me a little bit. So I can never slack myself, because one day off and I'm getting a phone call like, what's going on, what are you doing, you should be in the gym, and that just keeps me on track. But it's still a difficult journey when you don't have a fight ready, but that's why it's making this one even more exciting.
Is there any positives you can take away from the last year and a half?
Just the mental grind. My mentality's changed a lot, growing up in many different ways, not just in the martial arts, outside as well. Personally, I've grown up, and I guess not having a fight has allowed me to do so. As stressful as it was, I've managed to overcome a lot, and just happy to be here now.
I know you've also put your finger on the pulse of pop culture, things that are in the mainstream when it comes to kind of fight week celebrations. Is there something out there, something that maybe a movie, something out there that you could perhaps,
you know, what's making it a lot more difficult nowadays is things keep, like every other day now it feels like there's something's dropping in movies and just in the mainstream, games, this, that, like there's so much going on. It's making it a little bit more tricky for me to do my job. But yeah, 100%, I'm keeping an eye on stuff, and you guys will see something.
I saw you're visualizing invisible opponents during your work. Are you a particularly visual fighter? Do you need that, or can you work on the fly, or is it a cerebral thing for you?
I can definitely work on the fly, but sometimes, I think most of the time, when you visualize something, you can make it happen a lot easier. You know, you can feel when things are going in the correct direction than when they're not, because I've seen it so many times. And if I haven't seen this particular scenario, I shouldn't be in it. And you know, I take myself out using my movement and recreate the scenario that I want, and that gets me in my fights. But it's seeing it over and over and over and over again. And you've heard it from many champions in the past in multiple different sports about visualization, and it's very important, very important.
How does a superhero with power get with movement? Sorry, how does a superhero with movement get rid of a caveman then?
Well, they spend a lot of time going. So it's not going to be much. It's not going to take too much. But for me, it's just being me. You know, I say it every single time. My style is unseen, meaning people don't get enough time to train with it. And deal with it. So
there aren't sparring partners out there.
There's nobody. There's nobody out there that can replicate in the same way. One of my favorite things I like hearing is, you know, usually sometimes I get to speak to my opponents afterwards, and they're like, yeah, you know, I had this taekwondo guy come down and that, and I'm like, that's not what I do. So as much as you're trying to get something as close to that is not what I do. And so many people mistake it, and I'm happy for them to continue making mistakes, because then your first experience of me is when I'm in the cage with you, and it's going to take a hell of a lot to actually overcome it at that time.
Because I think you're more like the Invisible Man, because it's the kicks and punches they don't see coming,
100%,
which are the dangerous ones.
100%, but at the same time, I've positioned myself that way.
The traps,
you know what I mean? It's the traps that I set up that make it invisible. So I have to go for, you know, what causes that effect, and it is the fact that I can slip a punch here, and then as you're pulling around, it's a shot you didn't see. You know what I mean? Or I'm so far out of range, you're a lot more relaxed, you don't know that I can actually still hit you from there. But my movement allows me to cover that much ground and land those kind of shots.
When you're doing that movement and when you're in that moment and you've got the adrenaline and everything's slowed down for you, are you kind of deeply in your soul and your spirits?
I'm not sure what to call it. I know everyone's spiritual in their own different ways. I'm not sure what I call it. I just know I'm in the zone. I'm in a zone. Whatever that zone may be, everyone can put a label to it, but I'm just in a certain zone where, you know, it allows me to visualize what I need to get done and what I'm going to get done.
Is this the beginning of what you hope to be a kind of more consistent run now?
100%. I wish it's hard to kind of predict the future. There's so many. I was saying to people in past interviews, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, whether it be with the organization, whether it be personal. Just people forget that, you know, you guys get to see us on camera, but then once we're off camera, we still have to live a life, and especially in London right now, life's difficult. But yeah, for me, it's just it's a lot goes on behind that you have to kind of take into consideration. But I'd love to just be as active as I possibly can.
Talk to us about your opponent. What do you think he brings to the table, Mike?
He's a tough guy with crazy experience. Experience counts for a lot. It counts for a hell of a lot. Regardless of the record, he actually has an amazing record, but if you take the record out of it, he's still got 20 odd fights. Yeah, and that is a lot more fights than me in the cage. As much as I've done a lot of freestyle kickboxing in the past and from a young age, and I've got a lot of experience in my own way, it still wasn't in a cage, and it still wasn't under these rules on this platform. And for me, his most dangerous attribute is the fact that he's been in there many a times with some amazing opponents as well. And that's aside of that, he looks like another MMA fighter to me. I don't see anything particularly, nothing that stands out to me in particular, but that experience there means if I make a mistake, that I might have made a mistake in previous fights and being able to get away with it, if I make a mistake with him, he's gonna capitalize, and I gotta make sure that I'm able to get myself out of that situation, or I need to make sure I'm on point so I'm not even making mistakes. Everything I do is perfect, because he's the kind of person that will capitalize on those things.
Mike, is there anything that you can attribute your movement to? I know Dominic Cruz has always said that he attributes his style to the
To me? Oh no, oh sorry.
He always says that his style came from the fact that you simply had to about getting hit by bigger guys early in his career. So is there something specific that you get your style from?
Yeah, 100%. I say a lot. It's freestyle kickboxing, points kickboxing. There's loads of names for it. It's sport karate, because it kind of derives from a karate style. Although I started in Laogai Kung Fu, and it's weird. My style kind of comes, it's almost like a points, you know how mixed martial arts was created in the first place. It's just multiple arts, and it was the same kind of thing, but our arts were all based around points. So we had taekwondo, we had karate style, we had kickboxing style, we had kung fu style. That was all kind of mishmash into one, which created the style that I have now. And it's a lot of people think that I've just come in here and I'm just winging it. I've been in 20 years been fighting freestyle kickboxing, fighting with my hands down, fighting with that kind of movement. It comes, if I can take all you guys to a competition, and there'll be like 12 mats out in a big sports hall, and you'll just see people from age 4 all the way up fighting exactly the same way as me. Now I add my own flavor to it, but in general, the general principles of the movement, the kicking style, everything comes from freestyle kickboxing.
If you don't mind me asking, I have to try and stoke the fire a little bit. Have you got anything to say about Paul Daley's efforts?
I don't even know who that is.
No.
So you don't know who Paul Daley is anymore now?
Who's that? Might go by another name. What's the other name?
Boo Boy.
Who?
Boo Boy.
Never heard of that. Is it? Oh, Paula. Yeah, that Paula, that Tampax Daley. Yeah. To be fair, I don't know what's happened to him. I'm not really paying attention, unfortunately.